Good morning and welcome back to the Summer LAN. Myself and Agni will be bringing you all the action from the desk today, breaking down the games. We've got some very good international games going on, as well as, well, technically Europe versus NA, which is still international, but we've got some exciting games. 4 to be played today.
Man, I can't wait for those top-end games right there between Energy Space Station. Hey, everyone. Energy Space Station, E-United Team Rival. Those are going to be towards the end of the day, but before there, we got to get towards GetOnMyLeveL and Nocturns, Athletico Black Dragons. I think we saw some good flashes from both of those sets of teams yesterday, and I'm excited to see how they'll go up against one another.
Now, GetOnMyLeveL, the Southeast Asian representatives, Nocturns Gaming from Latam or Latin America. So Athletico and Black Dragons will play later on after that set, but it's all going to start things off with GetOnMyLeveL versus Nocturns. Now, these two teams both had pretty rough opposition yesterday, as you kind of expect, with a little bit more experience coming out from the North American, European rosters. What do we like about these teams?
I think that GetOnMyLeveL, for their first time playing on LAN, I think that they show that they're at least willing to fight up against the top end in the world, and I think that there is something to be said about that. The iApex had some pretty decent performances in the jungle. Their solo laner, the namesake of this team, GetOnMyLeveL, he struggled a little bit. And the big thing for this team is, remember, we talked about it yesterday, Kamiru is not their typical mid laner. He was their support and was moved to mid very, very recently because of some visa issues with their current mid laners. So this team, despite having some, a big challenge, not only being a first-time LAN players, but also having a different player in mid, I think they did pretty well yesterday.
Well, we got a chance to sit down with them this morning. Well, not sit, but stand with them this morning and actually see how they felt about this set today going up against their opposition. Let's have a little listen to that interview.
I'm here with GetOnMyLeveL and Maker on Team GetOnMyLeveL. Yesterday in day number 1, you played against Energy. Today you are up against Nocturns. What have you learned from day number 1 that you're going to take to day 2?
Well, we learned a lot from Energy yesterday. Mostly, I think we struggled mid-game with objectives, and then we couldn't keep up with them. So today, hopefully, we'll do better.
My question's for Maker, formerly known as Maker White. You've been here for a bunch of different LANs. What's different about this time versus the previous LANs?
这次线下的比赛跟以前有什么区别吗？
这一次线下的比赛，五个人都只有我一个人不会说英文，其他的队友都会。
Well, what's different for him this time is that the whole team speaks English as opposed to the previous LANs. So we were able to give him a better American experience while he's in America.
Nice to hear. For today, up against Nocturns Gaming, how are you prepared for it? Have you watched the VODs? What have you noticed from them that you're going to try to exploit?
I noticed they run a heavy CC comp. They focus on CC, slows, and stuns and stuff. So we're going to try to counter it with more CCs. And we'll see how it goes.
Awesome. You guys had some really nice moments in day number 1, so hopefully that carries over to day number 2. Thank you for your time, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
So look at GetOnMyLeveL there. They're basically saying, to beat CC, get more CC.
Hey, man, I heard you like some CC with your CC is what they're saying. And
GetOnMyLeveL, right? That's the name of the team.
Exactly. And I kind of like it because when you've got this new environment, newer players, they have some veterans, as you heard during the interview there, but for the most part, this is a team full of LAN rookies. What better way to make sure that LAN nerves don't get in your way than to hit a stunned target or a taunted target? Any composition that has lots of CC has a chance to succeed. I am always a fan of heavy CC compositions.
Well, this is going to be the first time the eliminations are available today. Obviously, the lower bracket is going to be starting things off, and GetOnMyLeveL, their opposition today is going to be Nocturns. And loser goes home in this best of 3.
Yes, and that means there's pressure on these guys. Yesterday, I think that you can get away without feeling a whole lot of pressure. I mean, you're up against a team that you're not expected to beat. You've got the losers bracket underneath you so that you can drop down. Now, everything's on the line, and I think that might weigh on some of these teams a little bit more. Nocturns, I think, had probably more pressure than any other international team to perform.
Is that because they've won before?
It's because they've won before. It's because they have been here so many times and have looked so good so many times that this is probably the highest expectations that we've had for them coming into a LAN. And yesterday they just didn't really perform to their level, and I think that might put a little bit of pressure on them to try and not only win today, but win convincingly today.
Well, SmiteVOD and
Beltway
had an interview a bit earlier on today. Let's have a little listen to that and how they're feeling coming into this set.
Hey, what's up, guys? We got SmiteVOD and Beltway here from Nocturns. We're going to talk a lot about the games, but before we get into it, Beltway, I want to ask you about the hair.
Yeah, you can see here.
Oh, it's sick!
Yeah.
It looks really nice. So what have you learned from day number 1, and what are you going to do in day number 2 up against GetOnMyLeveL?
Well, we play like super bad. I think we had really good drafts, but we play them in the worst way possible. So we have to adjust that things and try to play better. Just play better.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that. We've seen you guys here year after year, and y'all are a great team. We didn't see that yesterday. What do you think made you play bad yesterday, and how are you going to play better today?
I don't know, maybe just things go the wrong way and that's it, but I mean, we know we didn't perform like we wish, but we are going to, I hope we can do better today.
Did you watch any footage from the GetOnMyLeveL set, and what can you take from that footage?
I don't know, they play against Energy. It was like a tie game, but I think they are good, but I think we can win.
SmiteVOD, are you going to farm today?
Yeah, I hope so.
All right, good. Good luck in your next match. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Let's have a look at some of the Nocturne boys too. And coming into this set today, Aggro, both these teams, I mean, the one thing to realize about some of these international teams, they are very big fish in their ponds.
Yes.
But then when they get to the ocean, which is the whole world, it becomes a bit more tricky and they start to realize that there's still work to do.
Very much so. And that's why having that international experience is so critical. And I do think that Nocturnes heavily underperformed yesterday. I'm not saying that I expected them to beat Space Station Gaming, but I expected them to at least put up a really, really difficult fight. I think that Nocturnes is around the same skill level as some of the lower-end SPL teams.
Sure.
If Nocturnes went up against SK Gaming right now, I might pick Nocturnes. And that's not a knock against SK. I think Nocturnes is that talented. I think they have the talent there, even with their mid laner Ader Holder not being here. Instead, they've got Nozix, the dude who carried a game against ALG at Worlds and won international, their first game against an SPL team. That's not a downgrade. This team is really, really talented, and I expect them to really show off here against GetOnMyLeveL.
Now, the two sets we're going to start off with this morning with these international teams, I have a feeling this one is the one where we may see some unusual picks. I don't know why, I just feel like if I'm going to look at the picks and bans of these two sets, I expect this is the one where you may see something that you're not used to a little bit more so.
Maybe from GetOnMyLeveL, but historically, Nocturnes has been very traditional in what they pick. But
I think that's a reason. I think that's why I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I could definitely see something weird from GetOnMyLeveL just to try and throw off Nocturnes. Because look, GetOnMyLeveL, they know Nocturnes' track record. They understand that Nocturnes is a really, really seasoned team that should be playing against some of the best in the world and having close games against the best in the world. So that wouldn't surprise me at all if they try to throw a wrench into their plans.
Ratatoska and Artemis will be the first two bands coming out here so far. Artemis has risen to fame as time's gone on. Chernobog slips through now and again, but not as much Artemis.
No, Artemis has been permabanned thus far for the most part, but I think that she'll start to get out. I mean, this is how LANs develop. Through the first 2 to 3 days, it's the same bands, the same picks at the top end, and then you start to see what teams are really valuing, what is really making teams' compositions click together, and then you start to see that LAN meta develop, where it's just based on personal bans against the top-end teams.
Panda versus Wolves, and that's what it is. I just look at the logos and I'm like, oh, we're all about
GetOnMyLevel has such a good logo, don't they?
They do.
The superhero landing panda, that's what it looks like to me.
He really does. He just jumped out of a tree. That's
I know.
what happened, even though they don't climb trees. But.
Like, I'm imagining that I'm lost in a forest and in trouble because, maybe there's a mean grizzly bear or something like that. And I think I'm dead. I'm just maybe there's a wolf that is chasing me down. I'm in a lot of trouble. And then a panda comes, from the sky, superhero lands right in front of me and then saves my life. That is the background story that I'm getting from their logo right now.
Is that what kind of Thursday I'm looking forward to on the desk with you?
Sure is, baby.
Discussing in the forest with pandas and bears. Zhong, well, that's one big old bear for you. That can run in the solo lane, can run in the mid lane too. Now, we've seen a lot of him, but what are the real counters to the Zhong?
I think that you want to get AoE damage mitigation. So Kumbhakarna can be very good against Zhong. I still think that Isis, way back in the day, that used to be the counter to Zhong. Drop Isis ult. I think it still works, and I think Isis is honestly fine right now.
Is it solo or mid for Zhong, though? Where's the preferred role? We've seen him more solo than anywhere else.
I think it's probably solo, though I do think he can work in the mid lane. He's a little bit too vulnerable for me, and I think that in solo, Warrior's Blessing gives him so much tankiness, so much sustain, that I would prefer to see him in solo most of the time. But I do think that he can work in the mid lane pretty well.
Well, we saw Janus getting locked in there, so it won't be the Ice Assist game, and the Chernobog too. In response to that Chernobog, we've seen this Ullr come out from GetOnMyLeveL, which could still be in the mid lane if Zhong's going to go solo. But the funny thing about Chernobog is we've seen a lot of Jingwei has been the only real answer so far, and some experimentation with
Jingwei can match a very aggressive ultimate from Chernobog by backing and flying into a speed buff or something like that to help out faster than most other hunters. I'm a little surprised we haven't seen Apollo in response to try and match that global rotation. Can affect fights. By the way, Apollo has a knock-up on his ultimate and he's still not getting played. What is going on there?
Maybe people are just testing it?
Maybe not, because I think he's really good right now. I think that Jingwei is also picked because whenever he goes into the wall, you can just lay a gust right at that shadow location, and no matter which direction he dashes from, he'll get knocked up and interrupt that dash, so it can be a bit of an annoyance for Chernobog.
GetOnMyLeveL took their time and then locked in the Kumbhakarna to go with that Ullr as well. Kumba's risen to dominance, and I think that's down to the groggy strike changes that happened a while ago now, but it allowed him to be a little bit more aggressive in the duo lane at the start of the game. Relevant damage, low enough cooldown for that groggy strike to really cause some problems.
This is the kill lane in the duo lane right now. I don't think any other lane has as much kill potential as Ullr Kumba in the early game because of just the preposterous amount of CC, the guaranteed damage for Ullr. It's really, really difficult to deal with. So I think that Nocturns is going to have to pick a support that won't get punished. Let Chernobog kind of use his own mobility to try and stay safe. It's almost like you're saying good luck to that guy because you just don't want your support to get super far behind by these two kill options.
Nocturns take that Chang'e for themselves as we enter the counterban phase now. And that could be going up against the Zhong. How's that matchup specifically?
Totally fine for the Chang'e. I mean, your two
is it a
mages,
counter matchup though?
I don't think so. I don't think either one is really worried about the other in this sort of matchup. You're both farming for the mid to late game to try and make the bigger impact in the team fights. And honestly, there are not very many gods that have even a hope of making as much of an impact as Chang'e, but Zhong can be one of them. So I'm not upset about this pick if I'm GetOnMyLevel, at least if I'm literally the player GetOnMyLevel, because I have to lane against a Chang'e, and that doesn't really bother me too much. But on the rest of his team is probably not very happy that they have to go up against a solo Chang'e because they are so difficult to lock down.
Well, now GetOnMyLevel have one more ban, as do Nocturns, before we get into the picks again. Both teams focusing towards, well, I'll say potential junglers here, because Hebo could still go towards that mid lane if required.
Yep.
But both of them, majority of the time we've seen Hobwar just lately, it has been in the jungle role.
Just seems to be a little bit safer there and can get his farm a little bit more consistently than he can in the mid lane. And I mean, we heard at the pregame interview with Gamel, they talked about we expect them to take heavy CC, so we're going to take even more CC.
Yep.
Nocturns don't have that much CC so far. I mean, you're looking at a root from Chernobog, a stun from Chang'e's ultimate, heavy slow from Janus, but no hard CC really guaranteed. Whereas GetOnMyLevel has stayed true to his word. This is a full team of CC right now. The slows from Zhong, stuns, mezzes, roots, they've got it all through 3 picks.
So then, the Gem is the final ban. It's over to Nocturns for what they want to take away here. They could look for their jungler or their support option here. It could be just whatever they want to, save for the last pick to try and counterpick their opposition.
Interesting Medusa ban by Nocturns. I wonder if that's thinking that Zhong is guaranteed to go solo lane and that Ullr is going to be going mid, and then they're banning away the Medusa from that. Medusa can also mid herself, so you're trying to take away that double hunter sort of composition. There wouldn't have been a Fafnir thrown in there, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't have worked out overall.
It's true.
I love this Serqet pick from Nocturns. This
really?
is in my mind, this is Smitero's best jungler. He's played it a lot through the years. It's Serqet and it's Robin. I believe we saw him do Robin yesterday and didn't have a lot of success, if I'm remembering correctly. So this is a really, really smart pick by Nocturns.
Tell you what, talk about smart Nocturns. They felt there could be a chance to GetOnMyLevel go for a double hunter here, and this hover kind of dictates that could be the case, that they will be running this double hunter. So Nocturns doing their homework quite clearly against these Southeast Asians. Really,
really smart. I mean, this is a smart team, man. I really do have a lot of respect for the Nocturns Gaming guys, and I wish that we could see them play regularly against the top end. I mean, they are really, really strong, except for their performance yesterday. Hopefully they'll be able to remedy that if they do move on and face off against another SPL team tomorrow.
Final pick they're going to need, though, as well, if they do lock in that Rama, is going to be a jungler. To deal with Serqet in this composition, where you feel, I kind of feel Thor could actually be okay here.
Thor could be okay. I wouldn't mind a Hunbats because there's so many beads burners on your team that you can kind of get away with that Hunbats very easily. Agni, another great god at exploiting or chasing out beads of his own right.
Yep.
Susano's a pretty good option as well. I actually really like the Susano pick because it's one of the few that can match the mobility of Serqet. The Janus is there, but that is a sick, absolutely disgusting Ares pick. Like, this is the dream composition for Ares to play up against. It obliterates Susano, it crushes Ullr, it stomps Agni. All three of those need their mobility, and they don't have CC immune ultimates. That
Definitely.
And this is Nocturne support loves playing Ares. Like, this is perfect.
I was going to say, it also kind of makes Zhong want to go beads, which is something you don't necessarily want to do in the solo lane if you can help it.
Oh, man. That is the pick where get on my level. It's like they just picked 5 leaps, and then they go a Willish. And everyone else on the team has a knockup to set it up. Like, this is almost, I can barely think of a better composition to play Ares into.
I'm kind of looking at GetOnMyLevel though, and I feel their duo lane of this Kumbhakarna and the Ullr, they're going to have to be very aggressive early and try and put a bit of a beat down to this Ares to shut him down early.
Exactly. That's the one thing what I was going to say was if I had to pick Ares in any composition, the only change I'd make is I don't want to play against Kumbhakarna, particularly in lane because he's interrupting all of those damage over times that you have, the channels that you have. I think that if you're right, if GetOnMyLevel are going to win this game, they need to punish this Ares early on, because otherwise he can basically solo the entire team by himself.
Who do you guys think at home will win? Vote in Mixer chat now between these two. It is a best of 3 after all. Who do you get your money on?
I've got Nocturnes.
Let's get it over then to the game. The casters are standing by for game 1.
Thanks, Hindu. Thanks, Aggro. As we move into game 1 here, GetOnMyLevel and Nocturns Gaming, our first elimination set of the tournament. Someone's tournament ends here as someone else moves on, and these are the kind of picks that you want to take into a set that's just that important, Taco.
And I don't think either side's ready to head home just yet, Finch, because both of these teams definitely want to show that there's more to offer than what they were able to bring yesterday. And a little bit unfortunate for both sides, obviously, now that we are here in the lower bracket, but this is the time for one of these teams to really rise up to the occasion.
And the Dest did a really great job because there's a lot of pressure on Noitulover on this Ares pick because, yes, it is kind of a tough matchup, I believe, into the Kumbhakarna, but everyone else, I mean, only Kumbhakarna has the CC immune ultimate that you have to worry about, right? It's going to be so easy for him to get those no escapes off when beads are down.
And while the Ares chains are pretty ideal, considering the entire draft to GetOnMyLevel will feel the repercussions if they get crippled from those chains, but it could still work against Noitulover here because you have to also keep in mind that Ares, he's just as immobile if he's left on his own, and so you're really trying to feed off of a high pressure presence in this early laning phase. So if Noitulover and Zaionsix can get off to a hot start, then that'll be the way to go. But Jerem is not looking to take any chances. In fact, him and Maker are just going to head straight to the purple buff.
A little bit surprised to see that. You don't often pick the Ullr to give up lane pressure, but they're just going to go grab their own red buffs just to make sure they don't have to worry about it. It's one of the few duo lanes that an Ares or that an Ullr Kumbhakarna could be fearful of is an Ares Chernobog.
But I really like what Noitulover and Zion are choosing to do. Instead of looking for the invade, that was a very real possibility. They want to be able to match the same sort of auto attack pressure by giving Zaionsix his own red. So now there won't really be any uneven matchups in terms of just trading out those autos.
They are going to be able to grab that red buff, means that Kha'Zix won't have that, but neither will Kamiru. So they should be okay as the 2v2 happens here in mid. Nice Cobra's Kiss does interrupt Apex, but not enough. He still blinks forward, and he's able to make it out A-okay. It looks like, though, check back in with the duo lane. Nocturnes grabbed their purple and had to fall back. MakerLovE and Jerem rather, were able to clear pretty quickly and come frame pressure them out, but they should be fine.
And now that they're both level 2, they feel a little bit more comfortable with stepping forward, but Jerem gets separated for a moment there off of Maker. It's going to be a little late arriving to the wave, but it doesn't matter. With these two being so pushed forward, they shouldn't have too many issues clearing.
Yeah, as long as those chains continue to look like that, they should be okay. But great turnaround damage from GetOnMyLevel. Sprints coming out as well. First blood opportunities here, but the blink from Noitulover too strong. Now Jerem in some trouble. Gonna get that passive procced, and Zaionsix should be able to find the autos without any trouble. In fact, Noitulover wants to get a second kill with the chains on the Maker. He looks for the turnaround damage. No mana. First blood goes over to Nocturnes.
But Maker, he's not out of it just yet. In fact, he's gonna have to back up all the way to that T1 tower line. Zaionsix, full health, full mana. mana, no problem whatsoever. Noitulover did a great job disengaging there, and it completely baited Maker and Jerem to still keep pushing forward.
That was perfect. It really looked like they had a chance to take down Noitu, but he's been so accurate with these chains just in these first 2.5 minutes. And that it's 100% the difference maker. I know it sounds very simple to say if you hit your abilities, then you're more likely to win the fight. But with Ares, it's so important for him to be able to hit the chains in particular, and Noitulover landed.
The main reason why that 10 went south, though, for GetOnMyLevel, is just the creep wave. You can't forget about those minions. Sure, they might not aggro you the same way that they've used to in the past, but they can still deal a pretty significant amount of damage, and I think Jerem definitely is aware of that by now.
Oh, if he didn't know, he certainly knows now, as that passive does get proc from him, so even if he takes another spill here, it'll be that much easier. As GetOnMyLevel going and trying to defend his own blue buff. iApex is here, though. That is going to send Beltway and SmiteVOD on their way. In fact, iApex want a little bit more from Beltway, who's low on HP and mana. SmiteVOD comes back in to help out. Not going to be able to keep up the chase as iApex.
But he might be able to look for an invade of his own. Beltway's still pretty poked out here. Doesn't have a whole lot of mana to work with. That's going to be the wind siphon in, and SmiteVOD's going to end up taking a fall. iApex putting GetOnMyLevel on the board early.
This is exactly what GetOnMyLevel need. If the duo lane's going to have a bit of a hard time, then the jungler's got to go have an impact elsewhere, and he chose over here in the solo lane, trying to slow down Beltway by stripping away the blue buff, getting that nice kill onto SmiteVOD.
Nice job there by Nas to make sure that his jungler keeps his back RP timers intact. iApex will be aware of them also, but gonna make it a little bit more difficult to actually try and venture in for a frequent invade on those Harpies, knowing that Zaionsix is right there to help back him up.
And I do want to give some credit there to GetOnMyLevel, the player. I guess we can call him Gommel or whatever it is. It used to be Gommel. They changed all their names around. Anyway, the Zhong goes in. He does get some nice damage off when he's in trying to defend his own blue buff. That allows for the turnaround, but we'll talk about that later as Noitu has pulled in Jerem. A good axe comes out from Maker, and that is going to proc the sprint as well. But up into the air goes Zaionsix. He wants a little more. Not going to be able to find the root, though, so Jerem should make it out.
Nice pathing there by Jerem. Recognizes that he needs to get outside of the area of that crystallized curses before the vicious barrage can pop it. That way he won't end up getting rooted in place.
Not much you can do when all three chains are getting consistently landed in lane, though. I mean, that's just a rough life.
It's just the power of Ares. Carry Ares for a reason. Just probably looking at the damage charts, wouldn't be surprised if Noitulover's starting to climb up there. And sure enough, third on his team for now. And still, the amount of pressure that they're able to bring to the table here, it's preventing GetOnMyLevel from looking for any further invades. At the start of this, actually, we saw Jerem and Maker actually push up a little bit there, looking for the red buff, looking for the purple buffs maybe, but realizing that those were still yet to respawn. And it's just the thought, though. It's really the thought that can count in these sort of moments, because you just want to let them know that as long as it's actively in your mind, it should be in theirs also.
To be fair, though, to GetOnMyLevel, we got to give him some credit. That was the power spike play there for Noitu and Zaionsix, where they hit level 5 a little bit early, and they still couldn't capitalize. As the demon shall be recalled, two-man stun comes out from Beltway. That's going to set up the rest of the fight, as now Nas is here to try and follow up. Last breath locks down iApex with a return damage to Kamiru. Too strong. iApex ends up falling anyway, and now Nocturns can safely disengage with the blue buff defended.
That unstable vortex over the wall just barely managed to clip iApex. I thought he had it.
SmiteVOD knew, apparently. Death banged out of there. Okay.
He has time to get the dash off right before that actually connects for the damage, but he's mostly just looking at GetOnMyLevel because the poison did spread there from that last breath, and again, just iApex not really able to create enough distance between himself and the rest of his team, so GetOnMyLevel just forced to back off. I think that the Agni has a lot of solid damage here, but it is pretty risky for Kamiru to try and match the same rotation as Zaionsix.
And he's never going to be able to, and he still did a good job to get there, as Maker takes half his HP just from Noitulover and is out of mana too, so he certainly will have to back in this spot. If he had enough to finish off this Transcendence, then it's okay, but if he leaves without it, then it's rough. But it looks like he did enough to finish, so at least he'll start stacking.
And look at that ward placement, too. A little bit aggressive there out of SmiteVOD, really just hoping to see if they can catch anybody outside of those choke points. Also, that vision is going to allow Zaionsix to be able to push up as far as he wants to against Maker whenever these two hunters are left to their own devices there in the duo lane. Probably going to be a little bit longer till we start seeing some real rotations from the Ullr, but same can't be said for Zion on that Chernobog.
No, not at all. He'll be able to start rotating over as soon as possible once he grabs that ultimate. I was talking about those level 5 power spikes. Remember, Zaionsix actually gets an ultimate at level 5, unlike Maker. It didn't end up being a tremendous deal at that exact level, as they did go for the gank, but GetOnMyLeveL survived it, so we'll see if they continue to try and play around that. Remember, once Noitu starts rotating over, this was his worst matchup, right? The early up against the Kumba who can interrupt all his channeled abilities. He's made it out looking pretty good.
I'm still not completely convinced that this Ares pick is going to be 100% the end-all, be-all for GetOnMyLeveL, however, just because if Jerem's able to continue appropriately timing these mesmerizes, even the epic uppercuts, just to create some distance from Noitulover and the rest of his team, then GetOnMyLeveL could potentially even work around these no escapes. It's just, can Noitulover find the frequent Ares ultimates onto 3 or 4 members, because there is the fact that the majority of them do not have those CC immune ults.
It is going to make life harder for GetOnMyLeveL just that bit. But as you said, it's not as if it's an insta-loss just because that Ares is there. Certainly Nocturns have to make sure that they're executing correctly. And we already see Noitu rotating over and trying to have an impact. That is going to draw Jerem over to the mid lane as well, as Nocturns are on a 3-man grouping, looking potentially to get the party started. They do drop the Typhoon. That is going to get the knock-up, but it's SmiteVOD who comes in with the last breath, and apex just can't stand the heat. The bombs are going to come down, but they're mistimed. Kamiru gets SmiteVOD anyway. It's a 1-for-1 jungle for jungle.
Nice job there by Jerem, making sure to keep that Agni set up and in place to take out SmiteVOD. So it's going to be a jungle for jungle trade out. No one really wins in the end here between these two. And as Maker looking to play a little bit aggressive here against Zaionsix. Zion just does not have a whole lot of mana to work with, but he does have that attack speed steroid.
That's right. His auto attacks are just good to trade with due to his passive anyway, but Maker wants a little bit more action. Jumps in aggressively, uses the minion wave effectively, but Kamiru's rotated in as well. Zaionsix falls early. Maker now trading out with Noitu, has Kamiru here in tow. The Ares is going to have to fall back, but a good rotation does take down the Hunter.
Maker's just got to keep going back, because you never know what Nonzix is planning to do, although he seems as if he had Kamiru in his sights and not necessarily the Ullr. Right now, though, GetOnMyLeveL, that's the kind of confidence swing that you need to see happen at this point, because it's mostly been Nocturns playing the aggressor so far. GetOnMyLeveL tried to come out a little bit hot here at the start. We're shut down pretty early on, and so it's nice to see them trying to get back to it, trying to retake that initiative that they were seeking out in the start.
Yeah, and that's Kamiru to a certain extent out-rotating Nas on the Janus, just getting there a little bit sooner to try and help out with Maker up against Zaionsix, and it ends up working out in their favor. Nas probably just not recognizing how heavily Kamiru was willing to commit to duo in time. It grabs them that kill. So far, 2-0. This Agni has been there when they need it.
This has actually been their calling card so far, is Kamiru on the Agni, because if he continues to stay this efficient with his poke potential on the Agni, then it's going to be very difficult for SmiteVOD to actually get up close and personal.
Right.
Even with the last breath being applied, you're still stationary in that moment. You can still absorb plenty of damage out of those bombs, plenty of damage from the flame wave. You just never really know what's coming at you next. And also there's the very safe and reliable escape option on the Agni. So I really want to see GetOnMyLeveL shift and heavily focus out on just setting up Kamiru.
Beads are going to be forced out from this Agni, but apex is right here to follow up. He is going to be able to blink forward. Typhoon's charge, just going to use the last breath, so he can't put it towards him, but ends up falling anyway. MakerLovE falls on left, and Jerem gets SmiteVOD.
apex actually juking back into that through space in time. Did have the last breath on him also, but just not enough damage. SmiteVOD couldn't find an in-hand prior to launching apex away from him.
Wow. Gonna be able to grab this tier 1 tower here, Taco, without too much trouble. Again, Zaionsix and Noitu weren't gonna be able to rotate towards mid, so they just get the kill on Maker and push down the tier 1 tower and left for a little bit extra global gold. But this game is still very, very even here, 11.5 minutes in, 1,000 gold, and about the same in experience. This is still dead even.
And for good reason. I mean, both of these squads yesterday, even in their performances, sure, they might have been losses, but they were still very promising performances. You know that these teams have the potential to go toe-to-toe with some of these other international teams especially, and I think that's exactly what we're seeing here, because Nocturns, if anything, are probably the more favored team in this situation, just because they're a little bit more familiar, I would say, to the public, also just a little bit more experienced on top of that. And so you would expect Nocturnes to just be running away with this one, but GetOnMyLevel doing a fantastic job at making sure that everything stays break even.
Yeah, I don't think it's unfair at all to say that Nocturnes are the more experienced squad and as such favored at home. We saw the polls and they were indeed skewed in Nocturnes' favor for good reason. But GetOnMyLevel perhaps showing here that it's not as skewed as we all might have thought. They're holding even with them so far, even coming in to defend against the Gold Fury. All Kamiru really had to do was kind of show his face, and Nocturnes had to drop that one. No real chance to outsecure the Agni, so at this point, there's really been no big objectives going anyone's way.
One big thing that a lot of the international teams also struggled with yesterday was just knowing how and when to farm in between the engagements. I think that both of these squads have done a great job at making sure to mitigate that as much as possible throughout this match. And sure, it might only be 13 minutes in climbing, so still a little bit too early to tell. But speaking of early, Jerem might find himself in a little bit of a tricky position as he's going to end up dashing back into the safety of his own team. 3 members grouped up here from Nocturnes, and with Gold Fury still on the table, wouldn't be surprised if both sides started maybe dancing around that Gold Fury pit.
Not be surprised at all if that's what we end up seeing here. And my eyes are on these two supports. They've been so important so far. Have Jerem and Noitulover. The Stone of Binding already picked up for Jerem here, Taco, which is great, I feel like, for the Kumbhakarna, right? Because everything he does is control and just sort of benefits the rest of the team. They've been fighting around him so far, so why not itemize that way too?
And the same could be said for Noitulover. Ares trying to build off of that passive. You want the auras. That's what's going to build into your magical power anyway. Plus, going for the cooldown reduction boots is another really wise option. Trying to have that no escape up as often as possible just to be the actives pooler. I think that's all Noito is really looking for. Since GetOnMyLevel are going to struggle a bit if they don't have any beads available for their carries, you never really know what can happen in those team fights because one Ares pool is really all it takes.
Yeah, and that's why the big difference makers for me in this game are not so much the no escapes. It's like the small things, like if SmiteVOD can find a nice Cobra's Kiss and force your beads out, if Nas can get you in a portal and force you to use them in a way that you don't want to, now Noitulover, the door's blown wide open for him, right? And he can sort of jump in. So as big as those no escapes are, it's how well can some of these other players find like their smaller CCs and force them as Gold Fury being looked at.
Nozx and Zaionsix trying to see what they can get away with. Noitulover, he's going to jump right in. Both purification beads pulled from the Agni and the Susano. So that's 2 carries now. And a Chang'e, Serqet, Janus, they're all still geared up and ready to go.
Oh yeah, those are 2 rather large targets now that are going to be on the backs of both iApex and Kamiru, and they really won't have much recourse once they come a knocking to try and answer those targets. So GetOnMyLevel just have to make sure they're positioning as safely as possible. As Gold Fury was dropped, Nocturnes really weren't that pressured on their pull, but they give it up either way.
The problem for GetOnMyLevel, though, is that they don't have their T1 tower to fall back to for safety. Jerem going to need a nice chunk of his health, but it's all about GetOnMyLevel just pushing straight into everybody with that sack.
He's already dropped the ultimate on the right-hand side as Nox, trying to get a little bit further away. That's GetOnMyLevel expending a few ultimates, but remember, Nas used his through space and time as well, and some nice Agni bombs land on the Beltway.
But it doesn't feel like any Agni bomb pressure was even applied. Beltway with the sustain. iApex just getting absolutely fragged in the backside, and SmiteVOD's going to get credit for that kill.
No beads available for the Susano, and so there's just no recourse. Beltway did get hit by the epic uppercut. So far, this fight heavily in favor of Nocturnes, and they are going to come back towards the Gold Fury in response. iApex not here in the 5v4. GetOnMyLevel not even going to come fight it. Nocturnes have grabbed this Gold Fury.
I'll tell you one thing, Finch. If that engagement is going to be any sort of foreshadowing to what might happen next throughout this match, I would be a little bit concerned for GetOnMyLevel because they've had very little impact actually trying to push forward into Nocturnes. Beltway sustained on the Chang'e, already feeling a little bit of pressure from that, and then to add to it, with both of their carries not having their relics available, they just couldn't even get close.
No, they couldn't go into that fight at all. It was basically GetOnMyLevel that was kind of pushing in the player, of course, on Zhong, and there was really nothing, no one else there to follow up. The ultimate was essentially wasted. Nocturnes recognize it, and it's really SmiteVOD who goes in aggressively on the iApex and is able to help turn that one around as Pyromancer had to be dropped.
I almost wanted to see Maker just fully commit to the tower there. I think he actually could have finished taking it had he just gone forward a little bit more. Janus by himself, but can understand why you would back off, maybe expecting Noitulover or even Zaionsix to rotate immediately.
Yeah, that's a good call. He probably didn't know who else was around. It looks like there is a ward there on that duo side jungle, but you just never know, especially with the ability for Zaionsix to just suddenly be there if he was not sure about where the ultimate timer was. So just safer rather than sorry from Maker. He falls back and can always grab that tower late.
Cobra's Kiss gonna connect onto Apex, but he won't feel threatened to use those purification beats just yet. SmiteVOD a little bit far forward there from the rest of his team, but that's kind of just how it goes whenever you're playing the Serqet. You want to throw yourself a little bit out of position to try and find those surprise ganks.
Yeah, I think SmiteVOD is going to be very important for this team, so he's right to play a little bit further forward. Taka, we're getting closer to that 18-minute mark. For me, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing Magai's cloaks coming out. Is that something you think that we can start seeing thrown into some of these builds, even the carries?
It might be the best option, in fact, for a lot of the members from GetOnMyLevel, because even though Nocturns have some strong hard CC, they don't have a whole lot of it. You're mostly looking at the Ares and the SmiteVOD if you want to get this going, because you got Cobra's Kiss, the No Escape, even Beltway with the Waxing Moon to a certain extent, but Nuzix's portals, I wouldn't say that those are as reliable, but still, I'm listing maybe 3 to 4 options here that Nocturns really have to work with, and it's more so, it can be AoE spread of that hard crowd control, but not necessarily. I would look at it more so on an individual level than anything else here, and Nocturns, as a squad, whenever they are all together, though, this is just one giant wrecking ball.
Yeah, and it can't always be safely applied, as this Pyromancer should go down to Nocturns Gaming. Zhong can't get here in time. In fact, no escape committed just for the Zhong, who did have to purchase those purification beads and will survive there because of it. Up into the air goes Zaionsix. He's going to rotate over towards Maker and force him to back, so tier 2 towers should stand. But Taco, I'm right there with you as Root forces out the beats or MakerLovE. This is what I'm talking about with those small CCs forcing out beats.
That's exactly what you don't want to see happen if you are on GetOnMyLevel's team, because Maker having to toss those out and without any further pressure even, but had he been caught inside of that Crystallized Crucis into the Vicious Barrage blocking the root, probably ends up dying there. That additional movement speed that Zaionsix gets from Living Nightmare, plus the damage mitigation, just a little bit too much to handle. You don't want to try and take up a boxing tray as an Ullr, because your in-hands just aren't going to match up.
No, I'm right there with you. It's not a problem because he shouldn't have used them. It's a problem because he almost certainly had to. Yeah, and so and now the door is wide open, not just for Noitulover, but SmiteVOD even if he wants to jump in. If Beltway can find a nice Waxing Moon, as you already alluded to, of his own to try and knock them down. Nocturns Gaming doing a good job, I feel like, playing around these relics and playing around the objectives as well with the Gold Fury pull. They just got Pyromancer essentially for free. They definitely are the ones making all the shot calls.
I do like that GetOnMyLevel have definitely taken note of that sustain factor from Nocturns. We immediately saw them starting to rush into that anti-heal options. You've got Apex with the Brawlers, a Pestilence for GetOnMyLevel. But one big thing that's missing here, Finch, I feel like a Divine Ruin should have maybe been put in place of that Soul Gem there from Kamiru, because while Chang'e sustain might not seem that detrimental, and when it's 10 minutes, 12 minutes into a match, by the 20-minute plus mark, there is very little time period to actually crunch through and burst through this.
Noitulover blinks in aggressively, is going to pull in Maker, and right there to follow up, going to be the through space in time. Aegis comes out, but a Waxing Moon, perfect for the follow-up. Beltway gets the first kill of this fight. Jerem in trouble on the left-hand side. GetOnMyLevel does want to come in and try and help out, but there's no recourse for the Kumbhakarna. SmiteVOD finds another.
Just nothing to be done there for Jerem and Maker. Really nice job by Nuito, just blinking in, going straight for the no escape, fully expecting Nuzix to just have the through space and time follow-up damage, and like clockwork from Gold Fury straight on over to the Fire Giant pit probably. This is looking like a pretty free one for Nocturns also. Apex and Kamiru could possibly look for some steal potential here, but I don't even think that Apex wants to try and chance it.
No, it's just going to be very difficult if they want to fight in. And Taco, that fight is kind of why I chuckled a moment ago when you started talking about the Chang'e, because we spent 20 minutes talking about how oppressive this Ares could potentially be, and there all the while there's this Chang'e just sort of cooking over in the solo lane, ready to come out of the oven right around now. When we saw that big Waxing Moon and what it can do for him in the fights, the sustain as well, there's a ton of problems that GetOnMyLevel have to worry about with the Nocturne's composition, and now they're all sort of coming to a head.
feel like GetOnMyLevel maybe didn't place as high priority towards the Chang'e and Chernobog picks. We've been seeing a lot of bans towards both of these gods throughout this LAN so far. And granted, it's second day in, so
a lot of high priority stuff made it in this game.
There's time for that, but it is very surprising to see gods like the Zhong, Chernobog, Serqet, Chang'e all make it into the same match.
You even see Janus is banned a lot,
It's just teams have their preferences, and speaking of preferences, SmiteVOD, he's just trying to catch up to iApex. Looks like he's already got him caught up. Typhoon going to be popped out just to try and buy him some time, but the last Fred's going to end up claiming him anyway. Epic uppercut used now to try and run away, but Jerem all by himself. I don't think he's getting out of this one.
Portal's going to close the distance. Root's going to be coming out from Zaionsix, and he will find the last bit of damage as well. The teleport is going to come out, so GetOnMyLevel is now here to try and defend. Nocturns can't keep pushing, but they've already grabbed 2 kills rather cleanly. They have the Fire Giant, and they can force this down.
A quick and aggressive power here. Axe not going to connect onto Noitulover. Still taking a couple of those T2 tower shots, but SmiteVOD, look at how he's waiting for the flank.
And he's trying to force out the beats early on. They end up able to patiently use them to get away from both forms of crowd control, but an easy door opens now if Nocturns want to re-engage. Zhong forced to try and box out against Zaionsix, but I don't think this is the fight that he wants. Unable to find the root, but this Zhong should certainly be dead.
He's just got nowhere left to run. The entirety of his team already made it out, and GetOnMyLevel just stranded over there in no man's land underneath his own T2. Kamiru now having to dash away quickly before that unstable vortex can connect, and we all have portals like that, Nas. Don't even sweat it, man.
But if you're on GetOnMyLevel, how do you make this defense happen? There's no one with purification beads, no Magai's cloaks available. Nocturne should be able to use their control at will. A great Agni bomb comes out. Zaionsix has to use the Aegis. Jerem gets the epic uppercut off, and that does force sprint in response from Nocturnes, but they can just fall back and heal.
But the Fire Giant and the Chang'e sustain, it's just a little bit too much to handle. There's just not enough burst damage from GetOnMyLevel, which I'm still surprised that I have to say, by the way, because there is an Agni, there is a Susano. It's just not happening.
Well, he's getting great bombs like we're seeing here, but they just back up and re-sustain them. Waxing Moon does find one target as Jerem falls left-hand side. Kamiru had the Aegis, finds a nice 2-man stun, but it's not enough. Apex drops as well. Surrender Bolt comes out as 3 members have already been eliminated on the left side. Seed Phoenix comes tumbling down. Nocturns Gaming are not done yet. SmiteVOD jumps in onto Maker, and the no escape is there for the follow-up.
And everybody is going to end up falling alongside of the Titan here for GetOnMyLevel. They're forced to just sit and wait it out. Game 1 Finch just completely dominated here by Nocturns Gaming, and at the start you wouldn't have guessed that this is how it was going to end up.
It was close for a while there, Taco, but there's a reason we've been talking up this Nocturns Gaming squad, and it's because of their ability to do things like we saw here, the shot calling that we saw around the objective play, the excellent timing from Noitu to go in and find purification beads from multiple members, and sometimes recognize that he could just use it on one target as well. The awareness and the execution is there from this squad.
I'm not saying that GetOnMyLevel even made any egregious mistakes by any means either. It wasn't even that. It was just that one fight at the Gold Fury pit around that 13-14 minute mark. Both teams kind of second guessing each other whether or not they want to be the ones to start to try and commit onto the objective, and then suddenly the 5-man grouping from Nocturnes just completely overwhelmed GetOnMyLevel entirely. They did not have a chance to really even think about it, because 1 second, everybody's just fine, and they're all grouped up around the Gold Fury ready to brawl, and then it's just over.
And remember, that fight's earned by Noitulover getting the beads off. I believe it was Apex and Kamiru in that sort of jungle corridor early on. So then when GetOnMyLevel, the Zhong player, not the team name, whatever, with this thing that's happening, but when he goes forward trying to drop the ultimate, they can't afford to move forward and follow up on him. They don't have the beads. So that fight, the space is sort of created by Noitulover's great ultimate earlier on.
And I think that was also a little bit of a premeditated engagement, because Noitulover, with the way that Nocturnes alluded to maybe pulling that Gold Fury, it kind of forces GetOnMyLevel to respond. It's either you respond or they take the Gold Fury anyway, and I just think that GetOnMyLevel a little bit outdrafted here on this one.
I think that certainly was part of it. The draft from Nocturnes was very strong. But you said it. It's not so much that GetOnMyLevel made mistakes. It's that Nocturnes repeatedly made them pick the worst of 2 options, 2 bad options, right? So no matter what they did, it was going to end up not looking good for them, and they end up coming out of that one looking strong. But of course, someone stood out a little bit more than everyone else, or at least you all are going to vote that way in the Mixer poll right now for MVP.
pick your poison kind of deal, if you want to say. And they even had the Serqet, so it just works.
No, I think that you can certainly make a case for the Serqet. Noitulover had a great game as well on the Ares. I think there's a ton of great selections out there, Taco, but we'll go ahead and get the thoughts from our analysts and get it back over to the desk.
Thank you so much, casters. Yeah, game 1 in the books, and GetOnMyLevel back to the drawing board. We go for them again. Picks and bans. We spoke about this Ares pick, and it felt like this Ares really made the difference.
Man, it was just oppressive in that game. It looked like what we said was going to happen, where GetOnMyLevel need to get that first blood in the dual lane, get off to a good start. And then Zaionsix makes a really good play. It was a beautiful blink by Noitulover to get away, and that was, it felt like the beginning of the end, and it was only a minute and a half in for Nocturns.
I mean, that was a minute and a half in, but they did fight back into it a little bit there, GetOnMyLevel. It was a 4-4 for a while, but it felt like once we got to team fights, it's where things started to fall apart a little bit.
Yeah, that's what you expect, kind of, against for a team that is still learning the competitive scene
With
at
a
this sort of
substitute.
level, with a substitute in there. Kamiru played well, by the way.
He did.
Again, he played pretty well yesterday, all things considered, played well again today, but still, with a substitute, as Taco was saying, as soon as Nocturnes start grouping as 5, GetOnMyLevel just seem a little bit lost in comparison, and that's just where that competitive experience of, we smell blood, let's group up and attack right now before they're ready, and Gamal just couldn't really keep up.
Oh, SmiteVOD is going to get MVP here. Kind of expected it might have been Noitulover, but you can't ignore a Serqet. And
no.
Serqet, as always, you see that poison spread, and you know they were making an impact in the game.
Man, SmiteVOD played so well, and like I said during picks and bans, this is probably his signature pick. At least in my mind, this is one thing that stands out, not just for him, but for Nocturnes Gaming in general, is that whenever SmiteVOD gets Serqet, things are going to go much better for him than what they could have been, and it again proves it here with this pick yet again.
Yeah, that last tick just detonating iApex there as well, so a bit unfortunate on that one to not survive. What's the plan for GetOnMyLevel for game 2? Because I feel their picks and bans, for the most part, was okay. I think they just got blindsided by this Ares.
Yeah, I think the Ares pick threw them for a loop that they weren't really ready for. I'm not in love with the Zhong pick for GetOnMyLevel. I think that he should probably go a different direction. The Chang'e for Beltway was just under no pressure at all game, and part of that is pick related. Part of that is the way that Apex chooses to play the map a lot of the time. But still, I think that if I'm on GetOnMyLevel, I want to get some sort of pressure going. Because like you said, during the laning phase, they didn't do that poorly because they have the opportunity to practice laning phases all the time. Every scrim you ever do, every game you ever do, you get to do laning phases. And they clearly can do that pretty well. But once you group up, you're going to need a lead in order to use that inexperience and not have it come back to bite you. So I think that I'd be going for something that can get me pressure in a bunch of lanes. The dual lane was the right idea. They almost did. It was just that Ares pick was too much.
Maybe